voice from heaven.
Yes, really.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the European Engaged University. Let's start our event with the welcome words by the President of the Polytechnic Institute of Bragança, Professor Orlando Rodrigues. Please.
Good morning, Luis. There are some technical problems, I think. Not everybody can join the...
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for being with us in this seminar. A special thanks to our Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology of Portugal that will be with us in this session. So we are here to do one more step forward in our alliance, not in the way that we wish it presentially, but we don't stop and we continue working and building our alliance. So education is an investment in the future, and there are a lot of reasons that are saying to us that is better to do this investment in consortiums, in cooperation in the European space. Well, there are a lot of reasons that are making clear this to us. Changes in the labor market, changes in the knowledge society, changes in environment, in health, in the international competition that Europe faces now with Asia and North America. So changes in research is more and more doing in consortiums. So there are a lot of reasons that make clear that it's better to do this investment together, making strong alliances to build better policies and better strategies to prepare better our young people to the future. So thank you very much for being with us in this seminar. And now I will invite the colleagues from the other institutions also to say one word to all colleagues. So I will start with Hans Dick Pauwels, please.
I have to admit that we have technical problem. We have only 9 participants. Something is not working. So, and I got from our president email that we are in the Zoom, but we can't connect.
Okay, so maybe we will pass to Waterford, Willie Donnelly.
I think it's mostly people are not online. So I think we should solve the problem first, because I see only 9 participants and only 2 commission members. So there is something not going okay.
Okay, from here I don't see the participants in the conference.
Yeah, I understand. So I was calling your colleagues that something should be fixed.
Okay, so we will make a pause to see what is happening. So maybe we can start with Tampere. Kirsi Viskari.
Hello and snowy regards from Finland.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few commission members who were able to join, and maybe I was fast enough, but I'm very happy to be here today, as well as throughout this work that we have started with the Engaged Consortium. This is very good cooperation that we have initiated, and I look forward to all the following steps as well. Thank you.
Maybe we can pass to Romania. Mihaela Onofre.
Hello, dear Engaged team, dear colleagues. Thank you for your kind invitation to this special event. Allow me to wish you a healthy and prosperous year 2021. Last year, our collaboration has grown step by step. We got to know each other better. We had numerous online meetings. We signed cooperation agreements. Now, more than ever, we are putting faith in this brave teamwork everyone has been showing these past months. The pillars of our collaboration are strong now. I totally agree with you. Yes, education is an investment in the future. We herewith confirm the commitment of Alexandria and Buza University of Iași to continue our partnership in order to strengthen the consortium and to prepare the application for next calls for proposal. Looking forward to discuss future steps. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Principals, we will go, we'll have another one. Okay. Okay. So maybe we can now give the word to the other principals, please.
I don't know if we have now okay, so I think now we have everybody. So Hans, Dick Powers, please.
Yes, I'm sorry, I dropped in
Give the
during...
word to the other principals, please.
I don't know if we have now okay, so I think now we have everybody. So Hans, Dick Powers, please.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes, please.
Yes, I'm sorry. I dropped in
Give the word to the other principals, please.
I don't know if we have now.
We are making introduction round. Perhaps people dropped in and do not understand what we should do. So we're making introduction round, and everybody asked just to introduce themselves.
All right. And the question now to me is to introduce myself. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I dropped in, so sorry for the inconvenience. My name is Dick Powers, chairman of the executive board of Hansa University of Applied Science since January the 1st of this year. So I'm very happy to be in this engaged university meeting today.
Thank you very much. I think now we have Ireland Waterfall. Willie Donnelly, please.
So I will speak on behalf of President Willie Donnelly, who's unable to join the call, but he sends his best wishes and his congratulations to Engaged, and is happy to continue to support strongly the efforts of the consortium. As we all know, the international collaboration is more important given our current challenges, and this has been illustrated remarkably in the last year. So initiatives like Engaged are really a necessity for all of us into the future. So President Donnelly sent his best wishes and regards, and looks forward to the continued engagement of the Waterford Institute of Technology with the project.
Thank you very much. Bremen, Thomas Pavlik, please, can you introduce yourself?
Ja, bon dia, guten Morgen from Bremen. I'm also very happy to have joined this club as Bremen City University of Applied Sciences. I'm the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, being a professor of maritime management. And Hanse and us, we are very, very old friends, and we are very happy to have now the old friends from Hanse also as our new friends. So looking forward to this initiative.
Thank you very much. Luis, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Orlando, and thank you all the principals from our partners. So just go on. We classify ourselves as an alliance towards the future-ready economy. So Rima Dijkstra is the project leader of Hanse University of Applied Science in the Netherlands, and she will explain what does it mean. So Rima, please.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, members of the Commission, colleagues, participants. I would like to share with you some slides, but I'm not allowed. So if it would be possible, could you give me the success? So when I could shortly introduce our initiative. Okay, if it's not possible, I can just speak.
It's possible, Rima.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you see my slides now?
Yes.
Yeah, so as Louis introduced already, we are European Engaged University aiming to build the future-ready economy. And we are 6 partners and working very hard to build an alliance, to build a trust and truly engage our universities to establish a European Engaged University, aiming to create a new future-oriented student generation, innovative, flexible, and diverse, challenge-based educational and research systems. And we're aiming that everything will contribute to sustainable development of our regions of Europe, and we aim at high impact. So we are 6 outstanding universities. We're aiming to share our knowledge, to create new knowledge, and to connect our regions, connect not only our institutions, but also our stakeholders, regional industry, business, non-governmental institutions, as well as governmental. So we are not capital regions, and we are strategically chosen partners and covering mostly all parts of Europe. So we're already working for 1.5 years to establish our university. Last year, we prepared our proposal and submitted to the Erasmus European University School, and it was quite positively evaluated, however, not so well that to receive a funding. So, and despite that, we are working very hard together to establish university, and for that we need some background for our cooperation. So aiming to establish engaged cooperation structures, which will allow us collaborate smoothly, efficient, and effective. So we will aiming to develop and implement a new forms of learning and teaching strategies. For that, we establishing Euro Knowledge Lab. We're aiming to prepare joint curricula, and for that we need a curriculum lab. Also, we're aiming at mobility, not only for students, but also for researchers, teachers, and later even for regional stakeholders. So for that, we will have a mobility platform, because nowadays it's very important. You see, we can use virtual means and still collaborate, because actually we never met in real life. We're meeting only online already for such a long year. And also we want to to make research cross-sectoral, cross-institutional, and for that we establishing Challenges Lab. So also all these actors will come together in experimental incubator and meeting our regional stakeholders, business, non-governmental representatives, public representatives, to create new ideas, to test these ideas. And all these structures will be embedded in our Engaged campus. So this is one of the most important for our cooperation structure. And of course, all this cooperation is guided by Engaged Commission, which consists of our presidents and vice presidents, rectors, vice rectors. So this is our Engaged model in a nutshell. So thank you for listening. And I would like to pass floor back to Luis. Thank you.
Thank you, Rima. Thank you very much. So I understood that we are an alliance, a consortium with the 6 European higher education institutions, and we would like to have a stronger impact in our regions and in Europe. So, but how can we achieve this strong impact? What are our engagement policies and methodologies for the regional, the interregional, and the European development and challenges? So let's hear Richard Hayes, the Vice President of the Waterford Institute of Technology in Ireland, and he will introduce our ideas and vision. Please, Richard.
Good morning, everybody. You might give me permission to share the screen, yeah? So I hope this is visible now. Good morning, everybody, and greetings from the southeast of Ireland. And again, we're delighted to participate in this Engaged consortium and in all of the fantastic work that has been happening in the last year. I speak very briefly on this theme, and I'm very conscious of time. So increasingly in the world, higher education institutions, universities, and so on are required to collaborate more fully with partners, with communities, with companies and industrial partners, and so on. And this is an increased part of our mandate as higher education professionals. Our institutions are changing from being ours, to use one metaphor, to becoming anchor institutions in our regions and in our communities. The focus of the institutions in our consortium has traditionally been on a close relationship with industry and industry partners, but this is now more common across higher education as this fourth, as it were, fourth mission becomes more and more embedded in how universities and colleges work. In this way, as important anchors of our communities, higher education institutions are very powerful instruments for social, economic, and cultural change. Arguably, in modern society, amongst the only very powerful instruments for change. So we have a great potential for transformation of our communities within our institutions, and by extension within a consortium of institutions across Europe. So my first point is that there is enormous potential within the Engaged consortium to make really powerful changes, particularly in the economies of our separate regions. And realizing that potential is really part of our mission. The contribution that we will make I wish to break down into 3 areas. So within the consortium, there's great benefit to each of us as partners in refining our engagement policy and developing our engagement policy. All of us are strongly engaged organizations in our own right, but we have all very different approaches to engagement with partners. We have very different ways of organizing ourselves internally as partners. And one of the things that the Engaged platform can help us do is identify the best way to engage with industry partners in particular, and the best kind of policy framework within which to operate any kind of engagement activity. It will also enable us to gather and analyze data on knowledge transfer across the consortium. And I think this is not a negligible piece of work, because it will identify the breadth and range of our contribution to and impact on regional communities. For partners, and it's wonderful to see some of our industry partners with us on the call this morning. For our industry partners, the Engaged platform offers a common policy and methodology platform consistent across multiple regions for how we will engage with you. And I think this is helpful to many industry partners to know that whether they're talking to academics in Finland or Germany or Ireland or wherever, Portugal, that the approach is similar and the methodology the same. And I think this is very helpful in terms of bringing consistency to the industry engagement. But also, and I think this is a powerful element of the Engaged consortium, and one we're attempting to quantify ourselves at the moment. For industry partners, engaging with our consortium provides a portal to an interregional innovation network, where a partner in Romania can connect with an academic partner in Portugal and with an industry partner in Finland, all through the same network. I think this is a very powerful ecosystem that we are creating through this engagement project. And then I think for the European Union itself, the engagement program can, I think, inform policy direction on engagement into the future. As I've said, higher education institutions are increasingly compelled to be engaged institutions, and I think European policy on engagement can be refined through our efforts. But also, and this is an important element, the consortium where we have looked at comprising students, faculty, industry partners. This consortium provides enormous testing capacity for policy experiments and for all sorts of other innovations. So for the EU, I think Engaged presents a real opportunity to do interesting things and test interesting things. What we're currently engaged in, amongst other things within the consortium, is mapping our impact on our regions, better to be able to identify the areas for future emphasis. And one exercise we have done is we have identified the fact that we have about somewhere over 15 to 20,000 graduates produced by the consortium on an annual basis. And this represents a really strong pipeline of talent into our regions and indeed into the consortium. It offers very strong expertise in areas of regional emphasis. And this is an expertise pool that is really supportive of regional and interregional industry. So for our industry partners to know that there are 17,854 people out there who are graduates of our colleges that they can draw on, I think is a very powerful population for them to avail of and to be supported by. Finally, there's very strong potential, obviously, within the consortium for direct impact on our region. And we have noted that there is a huge strategic commitment in all the partners to supporting regional enterprise. What's interesting is that our partnership extends across urban and rural regions with all sorts of areas of interest and focal points for each of the partners. Some of the partners are working closely with SMEs, some of the partners are working with multinationals. And this diversity represents real testing opportunity, as I said earlier, for various initiatives. I think two areas of particular strength have emerged from our mapping exercise, and these are areas of ICT and renewable and sustainable energy. Obviously very topical at the moment anyway, technology and sustainability being two major thematic areas for research and inquiry all over the world. So the huge potential exists for extending our impact in our regions through our consortium, through drawing on this enormous pool of using the lever that is our consortium to test new ideas and to share experience and expertise right across Europe. I hope that was helpful to you, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. So we understood that in our Engaged Alliance, we will integrate both education, research, and the outside world in strong co-creation communities and ecosystems to address our regional and interregional challenges. So there is no community and there is no strong impact without the world outside. So we need to build it with our stakeholders. So let's hear some of them. The first one is Mr. Marinus Tabka, the director of RWE Generation, and this enterprise is the largest energy producers in the Netherlands. So, Mr. Marinus, please.
Hey, hi, good morning, everybody. Well, it's an honor to be here, to be present here, and I was asked to give a short testimonial why I think, and also we as a company think it is important, the initiative. And let me tell you something about me personally. I'm really at the center of the energy transition, and basically this energy transition is a challenge that we all face. And it is, of course, a challenge, but at the same time, it is also really an opportunity to shape our world for the better. And here in the North, I have to say I'm very proud of how we do things. And the Hansa University plays a pivotal role in this whole, dealing with the challenge and creating opportunities. And I have two nice examples for it. One of them is the hydrogen economy. We are currently working on hydrogen as a company. We want to invest large sums. However, at the same time, there's a lot of things we still don't understand. And luckily, we have the Hansa University here in Groningen that really tries to test new technologies and to train and educate new engineers that really will be able to work with this new system. The same we also have with regard to green chemistry. We have a big chemistry complex here in the north of the Netherlands. And also over there, you see this unique collaboration between the government, the Hansa University, and the industry to really accelerate green chemistry. And that is something that is very unique to this region. I think we have a very well-functioning, what we call then triple helix, and the collaboration between companies, universities, and the government. And what I think is, if we really want to solve this puzzle, and I'm very possible that we are capable of doing it, we need to do the same thing at the European level. And you already see governments collaborating more and more. You see that also in the Green Deal. You see it also with companies. If I looked at my own company, I think we work together with all the big electricity producers in your countries, for example. And the same is happening at the universities with programs like Engaged. So what I would wish for is that the triple helix that we have here in the North, that works so brilliantly well, that really enables us to make the next step and to make the transition work. If we could extend it and connect all these triple helixes in our different countries in Europe, then I'm really positive and sure that we will make this transition happen. So that is also why I think it is important that we are here together. I think it's also important that the collective, the Engaged collective, is looking to the outside world and is connecting with countries, governments and companies alike, because together we have to do this. So pleasure to be here and pleasure to hear what other people have to say today. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Marinus Tabak. For sure, it will be a pleasure to cooperate with your company. We will travel now to Ireland to hear the second stakeholder, Mr. Simons Morris, the director of MIT Education Solutions. MIT Education Solutions is an Irish software development company providing educational software services and solutions. Please, Mr. Simons.
Good morning, and I hope you can all hear me well. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to be here. So thank you so much for the invitation and for allowing us to be part of this Engaged University project. It's a fascinating project, and we are delighted to be part of something that is so innovative, so forward-thinking, and I think creative. From an industry perspective, I suppose I was asked, just to reflect and look into, what an engaged partner, from an industry perspective would be looking at in this ecosystem. I think number one for us, because we're involved in education, it's really, we're a software development company and services company, but education is what we do, and we're very, I suppose, active in trying to create an education research and innovation center where we are actually based. As part of, at the moment, we're based in, we work very closely with the Waterford Institute of Technology. You heard Richard speaking earlier, and that I think it's so important for us because we eat, sleep, and breathe education. It is so important for our communities and for industries to be thinking ahead, to actually see what types of technologies, what types of solutions, what is the future for universities, looking, really focusing in right now on the problems that we are all facing and looking at the plan B. I mean, nobody would have thought, 12 months ago that everything would have gone online so fast. And that has ensuing issues where we're not engaging students, where we've got a lot of retention issues, where students are dropping off, where they're, particularly first year students are not able to, feel that same part of a course or a community or a university as they had before in previous years. And I think we've all got to think about that. And from our perspective, we're thinking about the technology. For instance, we work on the whole area of admissions, so we're looking at applying artificial intelligence to how people will apply. So in an ecosystem such as this, it would be really interesting to look at what courses are available across 6 universities that are engaged in this platform, and to see how those availabilities are made open to all applicants and students right across the European ecosystem. So from our perspective, we've been doing a lot of work on scheduling exams, on validating students, because a lot of our exams are now on, or the majority of them are all online. How do we validate, and say, okay, this student is who they say they are? So we've put in financial, I suppose, banking strength, identity management systems, integrated with our own core learner management system to basically help to identify and proctor during exams, etc. But I think, the bigger picture for us is understanding over the next couple of years. Right now, there are immediate requirements, but over the next couple of years and down the road and for the next 10 years, what are the challenges that are facing education? How do we as technologists assist with that? And from our part, the key requirements, I suppose, are to validate what the research that we've done ourselves, which is basically, I suppose, market research. I mean, we're working with a number of universities and colleges as it is. They give us particular feedback, but is that feedback exactly what we need, you know, to go off and invest a lot of money in preparing, you know, designing and developing software, where maybe only, you know, 1 or 2 universities might find it useful. So I think that the common ecosystem, the common platform for us to research, to validate ideas, concepts in a very, very fast manner. I mean, within a matter of you know, weeks, stroke months, if that's possible, to be able to say within 3 months, well, for instance, you know, is scheduling exams and assessments or whatever via Zoom, you know, a very good idea? Is that something that is applicable? Is it something that we're going to use, you know, this year, next year, for the next, you know, 5 years? So, and ergo, going back to the idea that, is it worth our while investing a lot of money and time in expediting the development of this? And so I think, you know, we've got to look at those types of solutions, and we've got to, you know, integrate more artificial intelligence into how we, you know, how we look at applications, how we look at admissions management, and with a very strong eye around GDPR and how that affects all of those decision-making tools that might go into these. So we engage with, you know, the likes of Google. We work closely with Microsoft as partners, and so as an SME, we like to bring those heavyweight partner solutions that they're putting on, you know, in place, and to try and adapt those for the education system. So I suppose in short, for us, it's really, you know, it's a great pleasure and privilege. So thank you very much for the opportunity. But primarily for us, it's looking at the research. It's taking something that we've got some feedback, we've got some general sort of a, let's call it a gut feeling to some extent, from a business perspective. And, you know, while market research can be done, the market research for these types of technologies is not there yet, because it's bleeding edge stuff that we're looking at. It's stuff that can't be proven to some extent. We only look back on a very short amount of research data that can be available for this. So how do we quickly, you know, and expeditiously look at something and say, this is worthwhile, you know, learner analytics or Zoom scheduling or whatever, you know, it is, you know, we look at and say, how do we validate that? How do we decide that that's a good idea? You know, how do we know quite quickly that we should spend time on this and utilize it? So thank you very much for that, and apologies, I probably ran over a little bit of time there, but that's a little bit of what I do. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simons Morris. For sure, we will succeed in our cooperation. Now we come back to Portugal for the last stakeholder. Mr. Humberto Pellegri is the general manager of Catrapor, a Portuguese company producing metal components for the automotive industry. Mr. Humberto, please.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be invited to this committee. As Luis was saying, we are a Portuguese company, but we are part of a multinational company based in Italy with plants, by the way, in Germany, Bulgaria, Romania. So, of course, this is a great opportunity for knowing university across Europe. I mean, until now, I have been collaborating with IPB in a lot of projects similar to this, but local. And so it's, for me, a great opportunity also to expand this across our multinational company and have new talents available eventually in Romania or in Germany, and not only exclusively for Portugal. Moreover, of course, our market is worldwide, and so the fact that we have access through the university to different European markets is for sure very, very interesting. So it is really a pleasure to be part of the team, and we look forward to get students on our project from your universities. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Umberto. Thank you. So together we will build a common campus for co-creation. But what could this campus with the 6 higher education institutions? How can we join, find the solutions for common challenges? What could be the most effective way to join our students, teachers, researchers, and stakeholders in our Engaged Alliance? My colleague Vera Leves is pro-president of IPB, and she will explain how. Vera, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Engaged community. First, I would like to congratulate Engaged Commission for the second webinar. And I would also like to say my best regards to the organizing team that put it together all this Engaged week. And also to all my colleagues from Portugal and the Engaged Alliance that follow us online. So today I was given the opportunity to present the results of Work Package 7 Campus that we have been working together with key contacts from all partner universities. So I will start sharing results. I can see my slides, so I don't know if technology is helping me or not. Oh, I guess it is. Thank you. So first things first, we always should start with definitions. So let's start thinking what we understand of campus, and that's how our work package started. Usually campus is perceived as a physical place, as somewhere where we learn. But to better define our vision, we should start to understand and to discover where we learn. We should start by analyzing, and now technology is not helping. Okay, how we learn. And because we are talking about higher education students, and higher education students are adults that learn on their own pace and based on their own motivations and interests, they learn with no predefined timetable or boundaries. So students learn every time, everywhere they have the opportunity to practice, engage, act, and investigate on a certain challenge. This is even more significant if we consider that Engaged European University targets not only the typical young student, but learners from all ages and backgrounds. Engaged intends to create a learning community open to all our society. So this is how each learner that will engage with our university will interact with the surrounding reality, their individual inputs with the outputs from the region, with the challenge they face in their daily lives, challenges starting with points for curiosity and questioning that characterizes intrinsical, motivated learning. Places are either physical and virtual, will influence the learning outcome, but they are also enriched with the personal and scientific background of the learners. Okay, so in this way, Engaged Campus should be an open, flexible, adaptable, personalized environment, combining as learning tools the society, the individual knowledge, the physical space, and the global connection through technology. On our campus, our vision is that there are no walls, no bricks, and no borders, just like the learning process. So we will transform our regions in learning ecosystems open to all engaged students. We will not only involve, but engage stakeholders from the private, public, and social sector. They will be our challengers, our co-creators, but also our co-learners. We will learn together. In fact, we are already doing so with the first group of engaged learning facilitators, former teachers from our higher education institutions, in a future-oriented, challenge-based model. From this, we will talk later today on our second Engaged webinar. But let's go back to campus. The sense of learning community, the potential of team learning, and the act of co-creation needs an innovative and open physical campus also. And I have some technical issues here. Okay. So this is how we envision things. My colleagues are moving too fast, so I will go back a bit. I am so sorry for that. Okay. So we will have innovative, inclusive, integrated learning network of spaces. Each of our universities will have a physical space that we will call Engaged Lab. These Engaged Labs will communicate with each other, and they will not be replicated. They will be different. They will respect our university's biggest potentials, and they will complement each other in order that the Engaged campus is a complementary network of physical spaces together with our regions. And building the network needs more than just having something written on a paper. So we do need to complement this with the new technologies that the virtual campus will allow us to give. So we will have World Wide Web as a learning space also with innovative virtual campus that will not be just another Moodle, just another Zoom online class, but instead will be an active and innovative challenge-based platform that will allow students to communicate with each other without leaving their homes, but also teachers to continue building their community. So in resume, our vision is that Engaged Campus combines three branches: the regional ecosystem, the creative physical learning environment, tech-based innovative virtual campus. And these branches will come together as a puzzle, building a common view. So Engaged Campus is a space for students, teachers, facilitators, and stakeholders. In fact, is the combination of these profiles that create the active and creative learning community with real impact on our regional's ecosystems. These actors of Engaged they move physically and virtually from the traditional closed brick buildings to a network of regional and European institutions and companies, and to the online world with a click distance from everywhere. This may seem we are introducing chaos to the system, but we need to deconstruct to construct something new and better. Okay. And how will we make Engaged Campus real? How will we move from vision to reality? And that is why I want to take this opportunity with all Engaged Commission members to ask approval of a physical space for Engaged on all of our universities, but also ask your approval really shortly of a piloting of a virtual campus that we will want to test with our teacher community in our experimental module. We will do so. Thank you. Building an Engaged campus is an ongoing task. We didn't finish developing our vision. We have more questions than answers. We still want to continue working on it, assessing our current campuses, bringing together a benchmark of best practices, and explore future trends and demand for change. We will test, we will prototype, we can promise you to fail. And we want to iterate, improve, and continue learning to build an Engaged campus for future learners. Thank you.
Thank you, Vera. This is our Engaged campus, and for sure it's an exciting challenge for us. And we will help us to bringing together a new generation of creative students, teachers, researchers, and stakeholders. So to finish, I think we have with us the president of ANS University of Applied Science, Dick Powell. So if he's with us, let's ask him to give us our closing words, please.
Yes, Mr. Rodriguez, thank you very much for giving the opportunity to say some closing words to all of us. I think it's a great opportunity to have this collaboration of engaged universities here together in building a really learning network of engaged European universities. Because we strongly believe that each region benefits from its own specialized innovation strategy, and it benefits socially and economically, of course. And at the same time, there are many similarities between how those different regions can become highly innovative. And I think that's what this collaboration is all about, that we as universities and universities of applied science, active as transition leaders in our own regions, collaborate together to share the knowledge about how innovation really takes place and to learn from each other, and also to bring in more collaboration between European universities and European companies in those regions we are active in. And I think that's a very important step forward in making it possible that every region makes its own innovation very powerful and very strong. And what I also want to express is that for us, I think it's very important that we build on a very stable collaboration the coming years together, so that we not only learn for the coming 1, 2, or 3 years, but that we build a collaboration which lasts for 10 years or perhaps even longer in learning from each other and how to innovate in our own region and to become a more innovative region together. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to bring us together, and I hope we will have a good webinar later on this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Dick Powell. But as you know, today we have a special guest with us, Professor Manuel Heitor, the Portuguese Minister of Science, Technology and Higher Education. So, and following the objective of our event, Professor Manuel Heitor will explain us the priorities for the Portuguese presidency of the Council of the European Union in science, technology and higher education, and what can be the contribution of the polytechnics and universities of applied science, and for what are the opportunities and challenges for our European Engaged Alliance. Please, thank you very much, Minister Manuel Heitor. The word is yours, please.
Thank you very much for this invitation to Orlando, to Luis, and to you, to all of you for attending this session. We know well how the Polytechnic of Bragança is a fully engaged institution of higher education, and more than ever, I see the interest of what I just listened from all of you in what I will clearly mention 3 basic dimensions of the social context for always a renewed and strengthened Europe. First and foremost, the social dimension of the Erasmus mobility that we all have built over the last 30 to 40 years, but we need to continue to strengthen. Second, the social dimension of skilling for employability, which more than ever the pandemic crisis has called us a significant alert to look at the way the labor market is rapidly changing, and we need to promote more than ever reskilling and upskilling activities in a diversified set of arrangements, looking very much at the changing factors in the labor market in all our regions. Third, and last but not least, the social dimension of learning and knowledge, particularly through a continuous triangulation between education, research, and innovation, which have been very much the founding principles of the European research area, and one that we need always to strengthen, particularly in the emergence of a new pluriannual framework program. I mentioned these three dimensions because actually earlier today I was in a session in the European Parliament presenting the priorities of the Portuguese presidency for the European Union. And last Friday, January 22nd, we met with all the ministers for education and science in an informal compact council with Commissioner Maria Gabriel. And actually the main priority was to prepare the so-called European Social Summit to be organized in the north of Portugal next May. And again, we strongly emphasize in these two meetings, either in the Council or in the European Parliament, this very important social dimension of Europe. Actually, I should note that this is one of the 5 priorities of the Portuguese presidency, following the very successful German presidency over the last semester, and to be followed by the Slovenian presidency in the second half of this year. But the 5 dimensions of the Portuguese presidency, beyond this, the building up of a social Europe, is to consider a Europe which needs to be more and more green, more and more digital, but also more resilient and open to the world. In these 5 areas of being digital, being green, being resilient in European terms, but also considering the social dimension of Europe and openness to the world, are particularly expressed in the movements in the Engaged Consortium, which I would like very much to congratulate, to acknowledge, and to give all our support for you to move forward. Probably many of you have been visiting and collaborating with Bragança. Bragança, in the Portuguese context, has become a reference of inclusiveness in our most northeastern parts of the country, where 25 years ago was very much outside of any knowledge-driven and innovative solutions to today, because of the presence of an active institution of higher education like the Polytechnic of Bragança, which has opened doors to people throughout the world, particularly from Africa, from the Americans, from Eastern European countries. We have a rather inclusive society, and you can walk throughout the city of Bragança and see a very diversified population, particularly driven by the way Polytechnic of Bragança is engaged in education, in research and innovation. And I believe that in most of your institutions, you understand that this engaging movement is particularly critical for the future of Europe, to decrease xenophobia, to decrease extreme moments, which we know that in socioeconomic crises as the one we face throughout the world are emerging, and therefore is through learning and knowledge, through education, that we need to become more inclusive, and certainly this requires an higher education, more engaged in society at large. Actually, Portugal, together with 3 other European countries, Austria, Slovenia, and Hungary, are promoting with the OECD a program particularly associated with labor market relevance and outcome to really try to better understand how can we frame reskilling and upskilling movements in terms of the demands and the fast changing process in the demand from the labor market. We are observing effective changes in employment and in the labor markets. The pandemic crisis has just speed up a movement which was already started with the green transition. We see over the last years and the forecast for the coming decade, fast changing in sectors which were particularly drivers of employment in Europe, particularly the automobile and the aeronautic sector. And this crisis has certainly called us our needs to look carefully at the way markets will change in the years to come. At the same time, countries like Portugal have been particularly affected over the last 6 months because of the sharp decrease of hospitality and tourism, and this is very much, or this is happening very much in many other zones and regions, particularly dependent on the tourism. And this puts on us an enormous pressure to reskill our population, certainly to enlarge the penetration of secondary and basic education, but more than ever to open up post-secondary and certainly higher education training, particularly through reskilling movement. At the same time, we need to upskill our population, which is already participating in higher education and promotes lifelong learning, because we are facing rapid changing moments. But at the same time, we need to look very carefully at the way agro-industrial and the food sector is structured in Europe. We know for scientific evidence that it has become one of the most pollutant and carbon producer sectors throughout in Europe. And certainly the greening of agriculture and the greening of the food sector will require and can only be done with more science and more innovation, and therefore the green transition will certainly require a dramatic shift in the way we train people for the agro-food sector, particularly in Europe. And we cannot anymore just look at the closed European markets, at the high price of the foods used in Europe, where worldwide, and particularly in southern zones like in Africa, there are millions of people without access to food. And this certainly requires this global dimension of Europe and the restructuring of the food sector. Certainly, I don't need to call your attention for the way national health services need to be reskilled more and more, also to prevent future pandemics. And it's very important in this moment always to recall the last report, the last Human Development Report, just published about 1 month ago by the United Nations, which calls our needs to better understand COVID-19 as one critical result of the imbalance between human and economic activity and our planet Earth, particularly because, as United Nations argue, and more we have that scientific evidence, we are essentially in a clear transition to a new geological area, the so-called Anthropocene, where the planet Earth is not anymore dominated by nature, but otherwise it is more and more dominated by our social and human activity. And this requires definitely the changing behaviors, our solidarity among people. But as the OECD has recently recalled, it requires above all 3 conditions. New knowledge, because we don't have enough knowledge to deal with this new geological era, and this requires more research and development, and this requires certainly the diversification of the research activity throughout our full planet. Second, it requires institutional innovation, and we need to move across the disciplines and more to look at our challenges from a transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary context, and requires, third, but not last but not least, new observation methods, particularly based on space-based satellites and low orbit satellites that can provide us the necessary image and high-resolution image from agriculture to land register, to fire prevention, to autonomous mobility, to urban management, and every single activity that we need to have access from space-based information. It is very much in this complex context, but also with a number of opportunities that research and education, together with innovation, call us for the three major priorities that we are putting together in this first semester of 2021 for Europe at large, as will be presented next week in the Informal Council of Research and Higher Education Ministers on February the 3rd, and will be used for the Council conclusions next May. And these three priorities are as follows. First and foremost, the strengthening of the linkage between science and employment. We need to create employment throughout Europe. Europe has just lost about 4 million jobs in the last year or so, and therefore the creation of new jobs can only be done with more research and innovation, being able to create the necessary relations between the recovery process and the Next Generation EU in articulation with Horizon Europe and the different national and European fundings. As you know, as you may know, we will launch next week on February the 2nd, the Horizon Europe, in a session which will be a live session streaming all over the world. Horizon Europe and will become the largest world research program. Certainly, we need to better deal with the articulation of Horizon Europe with the recovery plan, and this requires a very careful attention of the synergies between the different types of funding at the national, at the regional, and at an European level. A lot of effort has been done, but we need to be open in order to better articulate the sources of funding and to strengthen and to reaffirm the Commission statement of last September that Europe needs definitely to increase the overall investment in R&D from public and private sectors, and we are fully engaged to make every single actor aware of the need to do more and better research, certainly in strong articulation with our education, but also with our public and, above all, business sectors throughout every area of activity, from the agro-foods to the health system, including industry and civil society at large. The second priority has been essentially the need to go beyond business as usual and to face the new challenges of knowledge. And this we know in Europe that can only be achieved with open collaborative research. And to more and more strengthen the openness of collaborative research is particularly important. And again, the idea of a renewed European research area can only be done with more inclusiveness and more open research, and particularly this. Your movement on an engaged university is particularly important, as the overall European alliances of so-called European universities are important. These days, we have already accepted by the European Commission about 41 of these networks, and we need to strengthen them, but also to open to others, because these networks needs to work as test beds to demonstrate inclusiveness, open collaborative research, the engagement of citizens at large, because without the engagement of citizens, we will never be able to succeed in improving the overall investment in R&D and in education that we all in the academic communities understand we need, but citizens at large need to be engaged to also to understand. And this can only be done if we open up research to every single region and to every single institution. Last but not least, our third priority, which will be the focus of the Council of Ministers next week on February 3rd, will be on research careers. Because we know that in order to better link science with employment and job creation, but also in order to better foster the new challenges for new research and new knowledge, we need to improve research careers throughout Europe. Again, this has been an issue which is not new over the last 20 years. Since the European research area was launched in the year 2000, that many political action has been made throughout Europe to improve research career. We all face a tremendous crisis between 2009 and 2014, which damaged a lot of careers and research careers throughout Europe. And over the last 5 years, Europe has recovered very in a way which is very relevant, but we need to do more. We need to do much more. And again, the idea that we will stress next week in the Council of Research Ministers, together with Commissary Maria Gabriel, is that European universities should be used as test beds to develop real European careers. The question of, above all, of joint recruitment. We know that over the last 20 years, Europe has faced through Erasmus important advancements in mobility of students above all, and through the European framework programs, particularly Horizon 2020, also the mobility of researchers. But we know that most of this mobility has been unidirectional mobility, always towards the peripheries and the most vulnerable zones to the most well-developed zones. And we need a better balance in the mobility, which can only be achieved with recruitment. The idea that in European universities, and I hope that your Engaged consortium will be an example of that, people are jointly recruited by more than one institution. And over their life, they can spend periods of time in different institutions, again, with a career. In order to improve careers in Europe and develop the effective sense of an European research and teaching career. And this can and should be done throughout the entire landscape of higher education. This is not just for a small set of research universities. This is for the entire set of higher education, and therefore examples like the Engaged University Consortium is particularly important by engaging polytechnics, Hogescholen, University of Applied Sciences in order to diversify the landscape of the practice of doing research, innovation, and the training, particularly in close association with the enlargement and the diversification of higher education throughout Europe. So these three priorities: first, better relationships between science and job creation, particularly articulating the Next Generation EU and our national recovery plans with Horizon Europe. Second, the idea that we need new knowledge through open collaborative research for a renewed European research area. And third, last but not least, that we need improved careers and career development for research in the private and in the business sector. And when I speak about careers, an important discussion is that research careers are not just for the public sector or for higher education institutions or for research and technology organizations. We need also to provoke the business sector to promote research careers. And the best way we are opening this debate in Europe is through the recently established taxonomy for sustainable financing. Europe is facing a very important shift in the way firms at large will be funded through the banking industry. And as you may recall, last June, Europe at large has approved a new taxonomy for sustainable financing, which will be critical for the green transition, which can only be achieved with more knowledge, with better skilled people in the business sector. And this is a unique opportunity to improve research and to enlarge research in the business sector, certainly in close articulation with higher education institutions and research and technology organizations and research performing organizations. And again, this collaboration between the business sector and higher education and research organizations, in my view, is very much associated with your Engaged consortium, and therefore is a very important issue. Again, the presidency is a 6 months period to engage people, to engage governments, to engage all the actors, including the European Parliament. But at the end of the day, we need those which are hand-on, like yourselves, in institutions that your daily life work with students, with citizens at large, with companies and firms. So I thank you very much for your overall engagement and to succeed in these movements of engaging citizens, but engaging also institutions and create and promote a network which will follow the 5 main drivers of this unique period to live on, being more green, more digital, more resilient in Europe, but also more social and more global. So thank you very much for your attention and have a successful working day. And I hope that we can meet face to face very soon in Bragança or in your own institutions. Please make sure that you and your colleagues participate in the streaming session of the launch of the Horizon Europe. Next February the 2nd will be an open event throughout Europe through the internet, and we also count with opinions, challenges, always to do a Europe which is better and better year after year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Manuel Heitor. I think you were very clear, and I think you almost answered all the questions that we have here from my colleagues. Maybe just one, if you have some minutes still. It comes from the Netherlands and is asking what is your opinion regarding the Erasmus Plus European Universities Initiative, and what would you advise our Engaged Alliance, and particularly how to get the financial support from the European Union?
That is a very easy question. So I told you already, I believe that your interest and as an engaged consortium is very relevant in these days. Now, we are used and we should use more and more to competitive calls, so you need to apply. But certainly, the message more and more is synergies about funding and action. Particularly the way we can mix national and European fundings. And when I found with European funding is certainly centralized funding like Horizon Europe of Erasmus, but also decentralized funding, in particular in the regions that you are engaged, structural funding, either through the European Social Fund or through FEDER. And this articulation of funding sources will be critical in the years to come, particularly in the context that in all countries are now planning and developing their national recovery plans, which again are one additional tool that we need to articulate with other tools. About the Erasmus, I already mentioned. Erasmus has strengthened, but definitely it has 2 new dimensions which are important for the inclusiveness of Europe. One, is the opening up to vocational and professional education, and more to go down to secondary levels, because we know that we need to enlarge the penetration of Erasmus. Probably you don't know, but currently the penetration of Erasmus is roughly, actually Portugal is very much in the European average values of 10%. Say 10% of the European higher education students have participated in an Erasmus network. And this is good. 20 years ago was much less, but is not enough. So we need to enlarge the Erasmus networks, and the way we make sure that we engage more and more young students in Erasmus network and build this European culture. In Portugal, for instance, 20 years ago, we had only 2% of penetration. So over the last 20 years, we have increased by 5 times the engagement of students in Erasmus. And for the coming decade and for the coming period, we want to multiply by 3 times our engagement. If today, roughly 1 out of 10 students, when they finish higher education, they have been engaged in Erasmus, we want then by 2030, one out of each 3 students concluding higher education should be engaged in Erasmus. And this is a big challenge that can only be achieved with a collective effort of the public and private funding. The other new dimension of Erasmus program will be the so-called alliances of European universities. And again, your Engaged consortium is, I'm sure, very much in line with these objectives of building networks, which will be used to demonstrate the engagement of higher education in building up of an European culture. So I strongly support you and advise you to go ahead, to move forward and develop your own consortium, always open to the world, and particularly engage in the regions you are involved and linked. Luis, is fine?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the Engaged community all around Europe. We are just finishing our Engaged event, so I will ask again Professor Orlando Rodrigues, the president of IPB, for the closing words. Please.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Professor Manuel Heitor, our dear Minister for Higher Education, Science and Technology. Thank you very much for your words. It has been a lot of information, a lot of important information for us. And the good information, I think, as engaged, regional engaged higher education institutions, the social and green dimension that you have mentioned are very important for us. But also the collaborative research. It's a very important. It's a very important theme for us. We hope that we are sure that Europe Horizon will be a good opportunity for develop this kind of research that we are doing with companies and with our regions. Also, the joint recruitment, it's a very important question. We have been talking about that. Vera talked about the joint campus of our alliance, and this dimension of joint recruitment, it's a very important question. Maybe a very a good opportunity to do some tasks in a joint way. So thank you very much, everybody, and we continue in the afternoon. Thank you very much.